and we are going to talk about another friend of the channel, Mr. Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, I think at this point, has solidified himself as worthy of being given the title of friend of the channel. So he joins Kanye and Kyrie, Cardi B, and several others who are friends of the channel.
Misfits.
So yeah, so this was an interesting bit of viral worthy content because Michael B. Jordan was at a fan screening for Creed 3, the third Creed movie that he's doing, and it's also the first one that he's directed himself. So it's a rather big deal for him. But there was a fan screening for the Creed movie, Creed 3, and he was doing press on the red carpet. And he got interviewed by a woman who he identified as an individual who once referred to him as Corny. So this is very interesting stuff. So we'll go ahead and play this. This is pretty much right in line with the type of stuff that we like to talk about on this channel, I'd say. So we'll go ahead and play what was very interesting content about this individual who once called Michael B. Jordan corny. I might not play the whole thing because this particular part doesn't go for very long, but I'll play enough for you to get the gist of it. So we'll go ahead and play this particular interaction and then we'll talk about it.
On the Hustle Show, we got Michael B. Jordan, the director and the star of Creed 3. And, we know each other. We go way back all the way to Chad Science in Newark, okay?
The Corny kid, right?
No, I did not say that. Misquoted for sure. No, you did not hear me say. I said we used to make fun of the name, but yeah, he is obviously killing things out here. How was the difference between you actually directing and working with the same people that you were directed with versus?
It was awesome. It's a family vibe. Last nine years of my life, I spent on the Creed films. They're very supportive. Tessa, Felicia, Rashad, Wood Harris, people that see me grow up. And for the fact that I stepped behind the camera and finally got a chance to direct them, they loved it. They embraced it. And it was a wonderful experience.
And was it difficult for you mentally because you're coming out of a different space?
I didn't know he was doing the athletic kid. I was staying in it. This is about me.
Isn't this the sexiest man show off right here? Who's the sexiest man? Because now who's the sexiest man? Because I thought you said you're on the way up. He might be the one right now.
What? This is the one right here. Yeah.
So is it a tie?
No, tie. We don't compete. Yeah, we don't compete.
Two number ones. Batman and Batman. Or should I? Oh, no, can't say that.
Superman and Superman.
Superman and Superman, sorry.
Good luck with that.
Okay, so you also are going to do a new film with Will Smith very soon coming up. Is the rumor out there?
Not sure. We're still working on the script. That's something that I plan on doing in the future. Not sure when. These movies. I'm just trying to get through this project. When I get finished with this one, then I'll figure out what's going on next.
How is it filming in Atlanta?
It was amazing. I've done 4 or 5 films down here. Shot a couple television shows. So Atlanta's a second home to me, and I love coming down here.
Favorite restaurant here?
Oh man, whatever hotel I'm in, their restaurant.
Well, you're not corny anymore.
I missed that. I heard that part.
That's why I decided to play the whole thing because of that part at the end. I remember that she said that at the end. So
this girl rag.
Yeah. Now to provide some context, because there is some backstory with this. So that woman's name is Laurel. I think that's how you pronounce it, Laurel. And so where that particular situation came from was she was on a podcast called The Morning Hustle. No. She hosts a show called The Morning Hustle. But back in 2021, she was on an episode of a podcast called The Undressing Room. With Eva Marcille and some woman named Dominique the Diva. And they were talking about his relationship with Lori Harvey. And during that podcast, she called him a, quote, nice, corny guy. And then they also went to some kind of arts academy or something in New Jersey. So they go way back. And she talked about how they used to tease him for being corny or whatever because he used to come to school with his head with a headshot because he was into the arts and stuff back then, trying to do the acting thing and all of that. And so they used to mess with him because he used to have his headshot with him, and they used to mess with him because his name was Michael B. Jordan. So they used to mess with him about the fact that his name was Michael Jordan, but he's not Michael Jordan like the basketball player Michael Jordan. So there's some history with all of that. And so that's where that came from. So he certainly kept receipts on that. And she tried to mop herself up there, talking about sexiest man contest and then saying he ain't corny no more because he doing his thing, blah, 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 blah. But that was interesting stuff there. So this kind of virally made waves. What did you think about this particular interaction? This chick Laurel and the way that she used to call Michael B. Jordan corny.
Well, I would say that first of all, of course, shout out to Mr. B. Jordan for calling her out. One thing about women who talk and act like her, they're they rarely have the tables turned on them because they're so used to being the shit flingers and running that you never really get your hands on them or get a chance to throw shit on them yourself. So this was a perfect situation, perfect baller moment, directing your own movie. You're the star of everything. She has to come to your event to get paid. She has to ask you questions to get paid. And then on top of that, she has to chew on those words. Even though she deflected some, she still had to chew on it. And you could tell that she had to swallow that. So I was in favor of all of that. But one thing about a woman with an attitude like that, humility doesn't do much. It's kind of like a shield. They just absorb it. And it's like on the shields on Independence Day. Whenever they tried to shoot the damn thing and it just absorbs it into it. It's like, damn, I just thought I humbled that bitch. And it's like, nah, she's right back at it. It's Thursday. It's Thursday morning. Yeah, she's right back at it, sir. Mm-hmm. So, but I still think that this was a nice moment for the internet. Guys that were called corny all over the world rejoiced for the slam dunk that he performed on this young lady. All right. And I'll say this before I'll let you go. And just from being, because we're going to have to qualify what corny is.
Yeah.
But I think I have a pretty good idea. And one thing that I would say is that I think much like how we were talking about earlier in the first conversation where things are getting exposed, I think another thing that's getting exposed are these toxic women that have been parading around the population of normal women and giving those women a bad name. And those were the type of girls, I know for me, I'll speak for myself, not per se, but that attitude. Well, the ones when I was first getting started, man, because everything was a cold approach. I ain't know what the hell was going on, so I'm approaching every grade. And so, you're going to get turned down with that. But there's a way where you can turn the dude down. And it's like, it ain't, you ain't got to make a scene. But she's the type of girl that would make a scene to turn you down. He's like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm blah, 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 blah. And she'll call that corny, and she'd rather be called, hey, red, hey, yellow hair, hey, you over there. So, because that's not corny, apparently. But how about you, sir? How do you feel about this situation? You think Mr. Jordan was in the wrong for this? Or do you think this five-head young lady is out of pocket?
Five-head. Yeah, I'm glad he called her out too. you know, women are a protected species and men are viewed as like the arbiters of evil, right?
Right.
So we talk about this sometimes, right? So, like, if you are a straight man, or even worse, a straight white man, who cares if I call you corny? You're a man. You're a straight hetero man. You're a hetero white man. So yeah, you're corny. Who cares? Boo hoo the fool. You ain't a victim. If the shoe had been on the other foot, there would have been an inquisition
Oh yeah.
on whether like if Michael B. Jordan was doing the interviewing and she was the famous person, and she started, and she during the interview was like, "Yeah, you used to call me corny when we was growing up." There would have been an inquisition into Michael B. Jordan's past to determine whether he needs to apologize, or whether he needs to be held accountable in some kind of fashion for the fact that he used to quote bully her, because that's what they would do. That's what would happen, is he would get pegged as someone who was being bullying or mentally abusive or emotionally abusive or whatever towards women. But because it's a woman who was calling a man corny, and it's a guy who is, even more, to take it further, a guy who's like, straight, it's like socially acceptable that he used to be called corny. And so, yeah, it's a toxic mentality, and I'm glad that she was called out for it. And I'm glad that he kept the receipts, because this needs to happen more and more. Because even though this is the majority of women who are falsely representing, even though this is the minority of women, rather, who are falsely representing the majority of women who are reasonable and who live their lives in a reasonable capacity, it's these types of women, nevertheless, who are the loudest. And they continue to be the loudest because they're given the majority of the opportunities.
Mhm.
Where are I don't know what space in podcast or talk show world that humble women occupy, but I need to find where that is, because all I seem to be encountering is this type of stuff when it comes to women hosting these shows or doing these podcasts, or who are big on YouTube. Loud, shaming, and insulting towards men who otherwise are well intentioned. And, you know, Michael B. Jordan gets the last laugh for sure. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Michael B. Jordan was referred to as corny and he's black. I'm gonna go there. I don't think that's a coincidence. Um, you know, this is why. So this is why I will at times disagree with the rhetoric of an individual like Umar Johnson. Um, people like Umar Johnson, right, will say that like black men dating outside of the black race is wrong, because black men have a responsibility to date, marry, and procreate with black women, because it is symbolic of strengthening the black race. And so it is a black man's responsibility to do this, to orient his life this way. But the problem that I have with this type of rhetoric is that it takes black women off the hook. What about the black women who view a large swath of black men as corny and therefore don't want to date or marry those men? Like, we're not holding those women accountable. We're just saying, hey, black man, it's on you. It's your responsibility. Well, black man's trying, but he is oftentimes, unfortunately, told by black women that he is simply not good enough for various reasons. Perhaps because he isn't in the income bracket that she wants him to be in, or he doesn't have the type of attitude or disposition that she perceives a black man is supposed to have. And so I would imagine a guy like Michael B. Jordan, she called him corny. I'm not calling him that. She called him that. Well, what does corny mean? Like, if we want to peel back the layers and dissect what she means by corny, like I'm fairly, I don't know this woman per se, but reasonably speaking, I can sort of surmise she probably doesn't think Moneybag Yo is corny. She probably does not think that NBA YoungBoy is corny. She probably doesn't think Yo Gotti is corny, or Rick Ross is corny. She probably doesn't think that these individuals are corny, but Michael B. Jordan He's corny. And mind you, this has nothing to do with Michael B. Jordan as a youth because she referred to him as a nice, corny guy in 2021 when he was in his mid 30s. So it's not like he was a corny kid in high school and he just grew into his own and matured and sort of went into his cocoon, underwent metamorphosis, and now, boom, here I am, Michael B. Jordan, sexiest man alive. No, she called him that in 2021 when he was dating who many would argue is the highest of the high in terms of black women in Lori Harvey. And he was corny even then. So, like, yes, what does she mean? What does corny mean? I have an idea as well as to what that means, and I don't think that it is a stretch to correlate the fact that he is black with her invocation of the use of that word. You know, because there's white guys in entertainment who I would define as cornballs. I don't know that she's calling those guys corny. People like Pete Davidson, for example. Is Pete Davidson corny? If Michael B. Jordan is corny, I'd say so. But we have this idea in mind of the way a black man is supposed to carry himself, especially in relation to black women in the modern world. And I would look at her with her hair color and the way that she dresses, and I would define her as a modern black woman. And I don't think it's all correlated as to why she would refer to this guy as corny. 2 years ago, this is recent history. So all the way around, there's a lot of elements to this, and I'm glad that she got caught out for this toxic mentality. I hope it happens more, and I hope that she gets raked through the coals in social media troll world, despite how much she will try to defend her rhetoric. And she's already done this. She's already made posts on Instagram because she knew people were going to be coming for her, rightfully so. And I hope it happens more and more. And this needs to serve as a referendum on some of the dysfunctional ways that we tend to view one another within our own community, and how I think there needs to be an adjustment to the way that we try to place these stipulations and burdens on black men, as if it is solely because of black men that the advent of interracial relationships is on the rise. We're taking some of the onus and responsibility off of women like this who contribute to why some of this stuff is happening. So I'm not necessarily trying to say that it is or is not all on black women or black men. I'm just trying to say the answer is somewhere in the middle. And people who are the gatekeepers for these types of conversations, and I mentioned one of them, Umar Johnson. He's not the only one, but he's the one that comes to my mind immediately. When they want to sort of put black men's feet to the fire, trying to chastise black guys for the decisions that they make in their own personal lives, how about we put some of the responsibility on the way that these women like this carry themselves and how they view men like Michael B. Jordan, guys who don't want to do anything but do things right and be principled and moral and do the thing the traditional way, but they're getting broken up by people like Lori Harvey who think like this. And so where does that leave him in the grand scheme of things? So just some things to keep in mind. And I'm glad she got called out. She deserved it. And more women who think like her do certainly need to get called out.
Well, when you mention the what they consider Pete Davidson, what they consider a white guy, they don't even consider white people. Period. They're not interested in them. One would argue that white men aren't interested in them, but the feeling's mutual from black women.
Yeah.
They don't en masse. They don't want to deal with other races of men. Um, they saw what we do on the basketball court. They're in our locker room, and they like what we got going. Man, they don't like other men in mass. They just don't. So they don't really rate white men. Every time I talk to a black woman about a white guy, it's the same answer of, I don't know. The same answer that a white guy gives me when I ask him about a black girl. I don't know. That's my thing. It's all good, bro. Hey, man, I ain't judging you, man. You're not racist. It's all good, dude. Like, trust me, man. Our own men don't even want to deal with them sometimes, so it's all good, dude. But nah, but yeah. So black women, they love them some black men, and yeah, I understand it. But the thing is that like we were saying that the bad actors, like this woman here, they were the loud ones in school. They were the loud ones everywhere. Um, that were pushing rhetoric. I mean, they're the ones making the songs now, promoting all of these crazy lifestyles towards men or against men. So, uh, this new age way of handling these dynamics, um, I would say that it's coming from an archetype of women, and it's her. This one. That's why I was saying, like, with her attitude, like, I don't know her, but I can tell that because she didn't take no accountability for the situation, she immediately shifted up, misquoted. She started, doing the prototypical modern stuff. I know she's got an attitude. I know she's a nasty woman. So to call a dude corny because he's not trapping or because he don't have felonies, that's corny. And those types of people need to be left alone. Well, I'm pretty sure this woman already have cats or well on her way to owning some, because I don't know what type of man would wife a woman down who goes out in public looking like this. So, oh yes, ladies. Oh, what's wrong with her? Oh, look at that hair. Look at that forehead. And listen to that attitude. Nobody wants to deal with that. So, um, the whole thing, man, with the corniness, I feel like that should go away. It won't. Um, you have to have some level of, well, you don't have to. They want you to have a level of edge towards you. And to me, this ties back into like primal stuff again. And I really think that it's innately unattractive to a woman to watch a man go to work, not have a job, not own a business, not work, go punch somebody else's clock. And I've mentioned this before in various other ways, but I think that a lot of the reasons why we're having so many issues here in the West is because of how the country is set up, and that most men are slaves. So a lot of men are dealing with women looking at them as not being full men. And if these women are thinking more primal when they're in school, somebody walking around with a headshot photo, well groomed, well mannered, none of these speak warrior. So on the primal level, they go, he's not tough enough. So then that comes off as you're corny, you're lame. The guy who can't get good grades to save his life, dropping out of school, but he thugging in the hallways and he's doing all this other stuff. He's displaying a level of ruggedness, toughness in a primal sense. So she's attracted to that. And so I think that women operate a lot in their primal. And so I'm not justifying their behavior. I'm just saying what they're saying is a mirror reflection of what's actually going on. Is it exaggerated? Is it fair? These are fair questions, but I'm not justifying her behavior or other women's on like that, because they have to think differently, because we're not living in primal times. But I think that there's a message within their hate. And that message is that men need to get their act together. Men don't need to be acting. So Michael B. Jordan is successful in the sense of North American westernized success, where The only thing he has to do is memorize lines and pretend to be somebody that he's not, and then he gets paid, and all of a sudden, the corny tag gets wiped away. But I don't know how Michael B. Jordan is behind closed doors. He probably is a lame dude. He just got muscles. So, but be that as it may, um, I still think that this is more of a nuanced conversation. I think that men as a whole need to, much like in our last conversation, I think I want to say, where we were talking about the hipsters and stuff, people need to get it together. And if they don't like corporatocracy and if they don't like what's going on with everything that's happening in the world, you have to take a stance somewhere and boycott things. Stop doing this, stop going there, stop participating in this, stop downloading that app there. Uh, and, just play your role in not making sure that you're not contributing to the madness. But I think this is a much more nuanced conversation. I think that some women do have a point to the corny label, uh, because if you take X dude that a woman calls corny because, um, he can barely breathe because he's got asthma, he's weak. The only thing he's good for is his intelligence. But if you drop that guy, from his safe coddled environment in North America in the new millennium, and you just drop him in any era where there wasn't electricity and stuff, that guy's dead. I don't care how smart he is. Dead because he doesn't know how to live. And one thing that men's job is to know how to live and survive. So yes, we are evolved in the sense that we have smartphones and stuff like that. But with the evolution of technology has been the de-evolution of men's survival learning and skills. So men are lamer than they used to be back in the day, I would argue, because they're not being men. They're being slaves. So, this is, to me, I think that, like I said, this is nuanced. But to stay on the surface level of it, right on, Michael B. And let these thoughts have it. So that's what I have to
Um,
say about that.
I would be willing to buy some of that if she, despite Michael B. Jordan and who he is today, she still felt as though he was corny. And I guarantee you that if you were to poll her, do you think Michael B. Jordan is still corny? She's going to say no. And she'd be telling the truth because her interpretation of corny is completely superficial. You're leaning into the practical application of the use of the word corny from the standpoint of primal instincts and life skills and things like that. These women don't think that along those
I
lines.
I
They're,
I think so. And hold on. And so let me just say this. So are they thinking like, oh, this guy can't fish or hunt? No, that's not the overt. It's a primal thing. So it's a subconscious thought, and it's subconsciously turned off. There's
I
something
don't
that
agree. Yeah. And I
there's some.
yeah, and I don't agree with that. I know what you meant. I don't even think it's subconscious because their notions of corniness are completely fluid. Number one, and number two, culturally, there's differentiations when it comes to some of these terms. Like, first of all, if Michael B. Jordan is corny, then so am I. Okay, to be honest, if Michael B. Jordan is corny, then I am too.
Okay.
And you can't drop me in any era, and I won't be able to survive. So, but that's my point. My point is, for her, she's not thinking about practicality. She's thinking about attitude and mannerisms and behavior.
Right.
Because I've known some guys who, from a behavior standpoint, a woman like her would characterize as air quote corny. And if you drop that guy into the middle of the Serengeti, he's going to figure it out because he has certain life skills that lend themselves to the corniness or lack thereof that you're describing. So there's just a disconnect. And the reason why I can't go all the way with that is because this is something that is rooted in culture. The things that constitute corny for a black guy are not the same things that constitute as corny for a white guy or a guy from that comes from a different race or ethnicity. They're not the same.
It's not, but
So
that's what I'm saying. But for other cultures and ethnicities, they're not even rated.
I'm not talking about in relation to what black women think. I'm talking within the context of their own insulated communities. So what I'm saying is, like, take a white female for example,
Mhm.
and you ask her if if this white guy who acts just like Michael B. Jordan is corny, she's probably going to say no, because there are certain signifiers and ways that different groups identify certain things like corny that are different from other cultures. And I think that if I was to ascribe to what you were explaining, if it was all about primal sense in the practical, from the practical standpoint, that's a universal language. So if it was coming from the same place, then there would be other groups of women from other backgrounds or cultures or creeds who would say that a Michael B. Jordan proxy, but just looks like they came from their own community, is just as corny as Michael B. Jordan is, who's viewed upon by a woman like her. But because and I agree with you that it is heavily nuanced, because if it was across the board uniform from a primal sense, I think it would
Mhm.
be more so the same. But I find that it's more so completely not the same. And like I only think this way because I've experienced subtle differences in some of the valuations of men from other communities from the women of their own community. So
Mhm.
like I'd be hanging around in college bars or whatever when I lived up in Tally or something like this, and I would see these white guys or Latino guys or guys who looked like they were from Middle Eastern descent. Forgive me, I don't know exactly where they came from. Who I would imagine, if this guy was black, he would be identified as corny by black women. But this guy's not black. He comes from a different part of the world, or he comes from a different community, different culture, whatever, however you want to say it. And those women from his own community or whatnot are not looking at him as air quote corny. So I think that there are idiosyncratic ways that are differentiating the use of these terms from one culture to the next. And it's why I struggle to apply a uniform language of something like corny, which is what you did, to this particular type of scenario, because I just kind of think that there are differences there. But if we are talking about the subconscious and whether women do that in a vacuum, 100%, I would agree with that. I just don't think that that applies in this particular situation.
No,
Um,
that's fair. I still stick with that. I still think that when I'm looking at other cultures and what they deem as because they have corny over there too. But like you said, it varies from culture to culture. And our culture over here, a lot of our stuff is dealt with physicality and manning, bro.
so right, so I agree with you. So let me ask you this, right? So let's pick a trap rapper. Pick
Mhm.
any trap rapper. Name them, right? Pick any one of these trap rappers, right? So take a trap rapper, because I guarantee you these types of women, so again, not all, we don't want to generalize, but these types of women probably don't think a trap rapper's corny. They wouldn't call a trap rapper
Right,
corny.
right. They
Right.
won't.
So what I'm saying, but what I'm saying, so if you take the trap rapper and drop him in a previous era where in order to be able to survive, you needed to know how to be a hunter gatherer, or there had to be some manning about you that was tantamount to appealing to a woman's need to copulate with a man who knows how to be a survivor. And you drop that guy in that era, and then you drop a guy who acts like Michael B. Jordan, but has certain you have certain skills like this. We've talked off camera often about how we're picking up certain hard skills, whether it's hunting, learning how to plant and grow your own food, all of these kinds of things. These are skills that we possess. She would call me corny. She would call the trap rapper not corny. But if you put me and the trap rapper in the same environment, I'm going to outlive the trap rapper. So my thing is, I think a lot of this boils down to the way that we culturally perceive certain things, like the use of the word corny,
Right.
or
And
certain institutions like corny. And so that's why I kind of stopped short of what you're suggesting, only because I'm not going to give her that much credit. Not that, and I just don't think that she's going. I don't think that that's the place upon which where she's using that word comes from, whether subconsciously or consciously.
right. And I think that women are their main thing is security. So financial and physical. If they feel like you're soft, they feel like you're lame and you're corny. So this isn't thought out, dude. This is A B. Does it equal or not? Oh, then he lame. They don't think, dude. This is whoop the whoop. So I'm not giving her credit for synapses. So he wouldn't
No,
be able to
I
take care of
know
me.
that's what I
Right,
was saying. Yeah.
right. So she looks at a situation and go, can he protect me? Yes or no? And so if there's a guy who carries himself like Michael B. Jordan did back when they were in high school, when he didn't have the muscles, and he's walking around with a still shot of his face, and he's doing all this other stuff here, clearly not busting guns, then in our culture, unfortunately, he's seen as corny. I'm not saying that it's right, but the guy who's a trap rapper who has a perception and a persona of busting guns or protection, then at that point, the primal sense of them feels more secure around that person. So, so not only do women want to be financially taken care of, they want to be physically taken care of. And to me, these are speaking to primal needs. And so whenever they feel like in the current social settings, I'm only interested, black woman says, I'm only interested in black men. I see these other men and I'm not interested. So I'm only interested in black men. All right. So what is the black man that through visuals through that I can see that's going to be able to provide for me financially and physically? I want a man that's taller than me. That's the physical stuff. I want a man that makes more money than me. That's the financial stuff. All right. And so they want and if there's any question about if anybody busts through the door, who's going to be doing the protection? All right. I'm pretty sure they're all going to say that the man's going to do it. And so they don't want a man that they feel like they can beat up. They don't want a man that they feel like another man can beat up. They want a man. And if they feel like you're not a man, then you weak and you not up to par. To me, this speaks primal thinking more than social. Oh yeah, whoopty whoopty wop wop. But I think they're all interconnected. I just think that there's a primal sense to this, and that they're as men in North America aren't living as men should. I can't stress that enough. I say this, I don't know how many times. This isn't normal. And going to work, doing all of this stuff isn't normal behavior. So when women are watching men operate out of normal behavior, it is unattractive in mass. And so men need to be men. I'm not saying Michael Jordan's not a man. I'm not saying that he is corny. I'm just saying that on the elementary, primal, I ain't thinking right now because I watch MTV Cribs and Housewives lifestyle. I don't think outside of my primal thinking, he's lame. Not to think that on weekends he goes hunting and fishing. So he is better than trap rapper. You see what I'm saying? She's not thinking about this. It's
I
just
see what you're saying. I just don't. Yeah, I don't agree with. I see what you're. I understand what you're saying. I just don't. We're at an impasse. I don't see it that way. Um, and it's only because all men are slaves going to work, but all men aren't being called corny or lame or
all
being
men are
viewed
not
as
slaves.
someone who's worthy. Well, I'm just saying. I'm talking about punching time clocks, going to work, clocking in,
All
clocking
men
out,
aren't.
living nine
All
to
men don't
five.
do that.
I know all men don't do that, but the vast majority of them do.
I know, and the vast
Statistically, the
majority,
vast majority of them do.
and the vast majority of them are not having sex.
Uh,
And it's not correlated science. That I know that's it's whoopty whoop and mixing. But what I'm getting at is people need to look at this, and this isn't normal behavior. And going to work, paying your taxes, and doing all that other stuff, you're going to be unattractive to a woman. Go own a business. Go be a baller. Go do something. You will get respect. And it's not just to get respect from a woman. It's you get respect from life. You're gonna get respect from men too, and more money. So stop being slaves, everybody. I think that's my message. So
All right.
Michael B, Michael B, rock on, bro. 5 head, do your thing. But fellas,
All right.
create your own
I
empires.
I think that's a bit of an oversimplification. I don't think every man who is having sex and successful with women is owning businesses and being entrepreneurs. Most men, in
I mean,
fact,
you can.
who are having sex, what most men who are successful in having sex and are deemed desirable by women are nevertheless still clocking in and clocking out and working jobs. Now there's levels to this, so there's a difference between reporting to work, sitting in a cubicle and working behind a computer all day and building roads and bridges. There's a difference. There's a difference between the person who is studying infectious diseases at the CDC and the person who is flipping burgers at a restaurant. Both of those individuals are going to work, but there's levels to this. So I think that's a bit of an oversimplification, but nevertheless, the majority of the men, statistically, that's a fact. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. The majority of the men who are having sex with women are working and not being bosses and not being slaves or owning stuff.
I get that they're having sex with women, but we're having these discussions every other week about how women are jumping ship, about how women and people aren't getting married. What is going on? And gender roles are off. Everybody loves to point finger at women of how they're not being women anymore, but nobody wants to look at men and how they're not being men. And how are they not being men? Because they are not being they're not being and so it's okay to have a job. I'm not saying that I own businesses and I'm Don Wong Super King. All right. And I'm not saying that every man that has sex has jobs. There's guys out here that are homeless that has sex. I'm not saying that. I just brought that up as a whoop de whoop. I'm just saying that things are declining for a reason. And these are, to me, these are subconscious things that are being played on a subconscious level. They're not overt, they're not in your face. These are subtle things making subtle decisions in people's minds every day whenever they're having their interactions with people. And so, is it the cause? Absolutely. I can't say that it's not. I mean, that it is the cause of it, but I'm saying it's a contributing factor of it. And I'm saying that when we're dealing with primal thinking, everybody thinks primal. So do men. And that's why we like certain hip sizes. That's why we like certain this and certain that. And women, they can't help certain height, certain this and certain that. And once you start relaying primal ways of thinking into more modern ways of interpreting reality, you start to say things in a modern way, but you're speaking in a primal context. So, yeah, I'm not saying that you need to own a business to be a man, because my dad worked for people and he was a hell of a man. I'm not saying that you can't be A or B. All right. What I'm saying is, when it comes to respect, all right, it comes from satisfying multiple areas of manhood. And I would argue, all right, because my father and your father have their ways about them where even if they clocked in, they still had ways about them that wasn't part of the machine. And so that's what I'm talking about. Not being a part of the machine. I ain't part of the machine. I clock in every day. I'm not part of that. All right. So, but be that as it may, I really think that uh, men need to get off the teat of corporatocracy and start to try to create things of their own. I think that needs to actually happen. And
Right.
stop supporting these big old things and bring back mom and pop things. So,
All right. All right. Well, there you go. That went way deeper than I thought it was going to.
hey man,
Um, but nevertheless, yeah. So chew on that. Maybe that's a good way to leave this for anyone who watches this video in the comments. How much of anybody's perception of Michael B. Jordan as a corny guy comes from a place of being primal, or is it just superficial? I tend to believe that it's more superficial. Dogon SS thinks that it comes from a primal sense of the way that we were conditioned to, as human beings, operate in the world. So we'll leave it up to anybody who's watching this video. You can formulate your own opinions and let us know what you think in the comments. Never otherwise though, that was a good topic and a good video and a good stream overall, as I like to say. But I think we generally tend to do good streams on this channel. But we'll go ahead and call it quits there. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as usual. My name is JV Wins. That is Dogon SS. And we appreciate everybody for watching another edition to the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. You can follow Conscious Approach on Instagram at CONAPPROACH. And you can follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Wherever you are watching this video, whether it's on the Facebook page or whether it's right here on YouTube, if you have not already done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join the tribe. We are currently in a race to 1,000 subscribers, and we show no signs of slowing down. So go ahead and join with us as we continue to make this logical content each and every week. Be on the lookout for the RSS feed as we make the audio version of each of our streams available on any platform where you can get your podcast. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, all that good stuff. And thank you for supporting logical content. I cannot say enough how much I appreciate all the new subs that we get each and every week. You got to crawl before you walk. We are getting there slowly but surely, but victory is at hand. So thank you to everybody who is joining the Conscious Approach community as we keep on moving onward and upward.
And the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS or on YouTube at Dogon_SS. And as I say on every part, guys, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, and keep it playing, man. Don't let anybody get you off your pivot, right? And until the next time, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side.
You're a hunter-gatherer, correct? I'm finna go watch that Chappelle
Blackface.
Oh boy, appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. On that note, we are out. We'll see you on the next stream. Peace.